Go read the comments under any Andy Bernard video. The verdict is basically unanimous. The writers ruined him. They wrecked a good character in the final season, turned him mean, and shipped him off on a boat. And I believed that too, for years. But then I actually looked at where Andy comes from, and I realized the writers didn't break Andy Bernard. His childhood did. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So let me start with something clinical, because there is a real psychological term for what happened to this man. Psychologists call it conditional positive regard. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is when a child only receives love, praise, and approval when they perform, when they behave the right way, hit the right marks, become the right kind of kid. And Carl Rogers, the psychologist who named it, said something genuinely chilling about how it ends. When approval is always conditional in childhood, the child grows up with what he called conditions of worth. They can only feel valuable when they are actively earning it. And at the far extreme, Rogers said, a person who spends their whole adult life desperately chasing approval from everyone around them is almost always someone who only ever knew conditional love as a child. Read that back slowly. Someone whose entire personality is trying to get every single person in the room to like them. Now picture Andy Bernard. That is not a quirk. That is a diagnosis. And the tragedy is that the show hands you the evidence, scene after scene, and dares you to laugh instead of look. And it starts earlier than you would ever guess. Not in Scranton, not at Cornell. It starts when Andy was 6 years old. Here is a fact the show drops so casually that most people miss it entirely. Andy Bernard was not born Andy. He was born Walter Bernard Jr., named directly after his father, the firstborn son, carrying the family name forward. And then his little brother arrived, and his parents decided the new baby simply suited the name Walter better than their older boy did. So they took it. They took the father's name, the firstborn's name, Andy's name, and they handed it to the younger child. And they renamed their 6-year-old out of a book of baby names. Sit with that for a second. Before he could even read a full paragraph, Andy learned the defining lesson of his entire life. Your place in this family is not guaranteed. Your identity is on loan. And if someone better comes along, it can be taken from you and given to them, and you will be renamed from a book like a returned package. That is the seed. Everything else you are about to see grows straight out of it. Now, on paper, Andy grew up with absolutely everything. The Bernards are old money. The kind of buttoned-up New England family Andy proudly claims goes all the way back to Moses. He has casually mentioned that when he was a kid, if anyone in the house wanted something, they would simply write it on a list, and the housekeeper would go and get it. Think about what an environment like that actually builds. A house where every material need is met instantly and silently by staff. Where you never once have to ask a parent for anything, because you never really deal with them about anything that matters. Abundance in every direction, and warmth in none of them. And in an image-conscious family like that, even his own body became one more thing that fell short. Andy has admitted he was an overweight kid, and then pointedly refuses to ever talk about it, which tells you everything about how that house handled anything less than perfect. You did not process it. You buried it and performed. Andy grew up with money practically falling out of the ceiling, and the single thing he genuinely needed, a parent's unconditional attention, permanently out of stock. So he learned to chase the one currency that Mansion never handed out for free, approval. And he would spend the rest of his life trying to buy it in every single room he walked into. Which brings us, of course, to Cornell. You know the bit. Andy physically cannot go 90 seconds without reminding you that he went to Cornell. He will tell you he graduated in 4 years, that he never once studied, that he spent the entire time drinking and singing in his beloved a cappella group, Here Comes Treble. It is the easiest running joke in the whole show, but look at what is sitting underneath it. Andy's father was a Cornell alumnus and a member of the university's board, and he donated an entire building to get his son admitted. So Andy's proudest credential, the achievement he wears like a suit of armor, is also living proof that he was let in, not that he earned his way in. Even his biggest trophy has his father's fingerprints all over it. So when he name drops Cornell for the 1000th time, that is not arrogance you are hearing. That is a grown man holding up a diploma and quietly asking over and over again, is this enough yet? Am I somebody now? And the answer he always got at home was a flat, unmoving no. And nowhere does that answer come through louder than at the garden party. Season 8. Andy throws an elaborate, painstakingly planned party, partly to impress his intimidating new boss, but really, underneath it all, to impress his parents, who have come to watch. This is his big move. This is Andy standing up and saying, "Look what I built. Look what I can do. Please, for once, be proud of me." And the emotional centerpiece of the whole plan is a musical number. He's going to sing a duet with his dad. More than words. The two of them, father and son, harmonizing in front of everyone he knows. It is genuinely the most vulnerable thing you will ever watch Andy Bernard do. And his father takes the guitar, stops him, corrects how Andy is playing, tells him flatly that he is doing it wrong, and then turns and performs the duet with Walter Jr. instead, the favored son, in front of Andy's co-workers, in front of the very boss Andy was trying so hard to impress, and Andy just stands there and takes it. The one time he reaches directly and openly for his father's love, in public, his father hands it to the brother who already has everything. And then the show does something it almost never does. It says the quiet part out loud. After that duet, Andy's father pulls him aside, and the entire conversation happens to get picked up on a baby monitor that Jim and Pam are holding. So Oscar, Daryl, and Aaron all accidentally overhear the whole thing. And what they hear is Andy's father refusing to tell his son he's proud of him, and instead telling Andy to stop seeking his approval like a little kid. "Stop seeking my approval," said out loud, to the one son whose entire personality is a 30-year search for exactly that. And here is the part that truly matters. The co-workers listening in go completely silent, and you watch it land on their faces. Oscar and Daryl basically say, "Oh, now we understand. Now we get why Andy is the way he is." That is the audience surrogate, sitting right there inside the episode, listening to a man's whole character get explained in one cruel sentence from his father. And to that father, remember, Andy's desperate need to be loved was not pain to be met. It was an obnoxious tantrum to be annoyed by. As far as Walter was concerned, his oldest son had never done a single thing to actually deserve his pride. The show diagnosed Andy for you, completely. Most people just never bothered to write it down. So what happens to a kid who learns, that early and that permanently, that reaching for love in public gets you humiliated? Sometimes it comes out sideways, as rage. Remember the very first thing we ever learn about Andy, back when he transfers in from the Stamford branch, is that he has a serious anger problem. Jim needles him with a few small pranks, and Andy punches a hole clean through the office wall and gets shipped off to anger management. We treat the whole thing as a gag, but anger that explosive does not come from nowhere. It is what leaks out when the performance fails, when the mask of the cheerful, agreeable, please-everybody guy finally slips, and the pressure that has been building underneath for decades blows straight through the drywall, and you can hear exactly where it is really aimed. Later in the series, on the phone with his father, Andy finally snaps completely and tells the man to go to hell. That is the entire wound in a single phone call. A lifetime of "please be proud of me" curdling all at once into "I am done trying." The rage was never really about Jim or a prank or a wall. It was about a house that never once made him feel safe enough to be angry in the first place. And when the anger is not showing, you get the exact opposite side of the same wound. The exhausting, bottomless need to be liked by absolutely everyone. And once you notice it, it is everywhere. When a friend cancels plans on him, Andy actually apologizes for annoying them with his friendship. Read that one again. He says sorry out loud for the crime of wanting to be around other people. When his boss draws up a list ranking the entire office into winners and losers, Andy quietly sits down and goes name by name down the losers column, explaining why each person there does not deserve to be called worthless, because he cannot stand, physically cannot tolerate, the idea of anyone being told they do not matter. He knows that exact feeling from the inside. He listens to Phyllis tell her most boring, meandering stories and treats every single one like it is the most fascinating thing he has ever heard. Michael even sums the man up perfectly once, describing Andy as a product nobody wanted that Andy himself somehow never stopped selling. And that is the real tragedy, buried in the comedy. Andy hands out the warm, unconditional attention he never once received to everyone around him, constantly, for free, and he still cannot manage to give a single drop of it to himself. Which brings us all the way back around to the thing everyone loves to say. The writers ruined Andy, so here is what actually happens to him at the end. Andy's father blows through the entire family fortune, then runs off to Argentina with a woman half his age and leaves Andy holding the wreckage, suddenly in charge of a family that never once put him first for a day in his life. Andy has to sell off the family's assets just to keep his mother afloat, including the boat he had always dreamed of driving himself. And then, yes, he falls apart. He gets mean, he gets selfish. He abandons the people who actually did love him. But that is not the writers betraying the character. That is the character with the mask, finally, completely off. Take a lifetime of conditional love, then strip away the money, the status, the family name, the whole stage he was performing on, and of course the performance collapses. There is nothing underneath it to catch him, because no one ever once built anything underneath. And that famous final line, the one absolutely everyone quotes, about wishing there were a way to know you are in the good old days before you have actually left them, it lands as hard as it does for one specific reason. Andy Bernard spent his entire life auditioning for a sense of belonging that was frequently sitting right there in the room with him. He simply could never feel it while it was happening, because not one person ever taught him that he was allowed to. He was still Walter Jr., 6 years old, standing there watching them give his name away. He was never annoying. He was auditioning. Subscribe for more deep dives that change how you watch your favorite shows.